What's going on, guys? It's fight season MMA, and today, breaking news from the UFC 310 broadcast. Sean Strickland is going to be challenging for the UFC middleweight title against Dricus Du Plessis in Sydney, Australia. Absolutely banger of a fight between these two individuals. They have fought once before. I'm going to kind of recap their fight and talk about why I think that this bout between these guys is so absolutely entertaining and interesting to go down. But it's just so amazing to see not only Dricus back, but also Sean Strickland, two of the fighters that we love inside the organization, go down once again for an absolutely banger of a fight in Australia. But if you guys enjoy the UFC content, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to help the channel grow. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified about UFC content as it releases every single day. But without further ado, let's jump into the fight news. Sean Strickland, Dricus Du Plessis going down UFC middleweight title in Sydney, Australia. So, occurring in Sydney, Australia, Sean Strickland is going down to fight Dricus Du Plessis for the second time. First fight was in Toronto, Canada, and this fight is going to go down, like I said, Sydney, Australia, UFC 312 on Saturday, February 8th. This is going to be an incredible fight between two of the best middleweights in the world. I think that Dricus Du Plessis is the best middleweight. I think that Sean Strickland and Khamzat Chimaev are on that tier, maybe right below Dricus, and then you got Adesanya and Whitaker and a bunch of other guys below that. You know, I look at Sean Strickland, and that UFC 297 fight that he had with Dricus was so close. It was so close. Dricus Du Plessis won the split decision in that fight. I think Dricus won rounds 2, 3, and 4, and I cannot remember the round that was split between the two. If I had to say, I think it was round 2, but I could be wrong in that category. But Sean Strickland, Dricus Du Plessis is going to be a very incredible fight. To see the difference between on the feet, with Strickland kind of having those peppery jabs and whatnot, and to see Dricus on the ground. But to kind of recap their first fight that they had one another, Sean Strickland outlanded Dricus Du Plessis, 183 total strikes to 140 by Dricus Du Plessis. Now, significant strikes, Sean Strickland also outlanded Dricus Du Plessis, with 173 of those being significant, and Dricus being 137 of those significant. The biggest difference, though, in this fight is Dricus Du Plessis had 6 takedowns to Sean Strickland's 0 takedowns. And I think that that was probably the biggest thing going on between these two individuals, is Dricus Du Plessis was able to go in there and mix up the fight at will. Now, Sean Strickland is a fighter that you can take down pretty easily, but you can't hold him down. He's kind of got that weird, great wrestling defense where he can just kind of stand up whenever he wants to do so. So Sean Strickland really has the ability to go out there, and even if he gets taken down time and time again by Dricus Du Plessis, he just can stand up whenever he really wants to. This was a 5-round decision. Like I said, it was split in Dricus Du Plessis' favor, and Dricus, KO'd Whitaker, submitted Adesanya, had a lot of different finishes inside the UFC, but Strickland was the only guy to be able to go all 5 fives with him, and I think that shows something about Sean Strickland's absolute resilience in there. But looking at this fight now, going on at UFC 312, how have these fighters changed? Strickland has fought once since the UFC 297 bout, and that was against Paulo Costa at UFC 302 in a co-main event that was 5 rounds. Strickland won all 5s with Costa and won by split decision with Yes. That was an incredibly awful split decision. Not everyone remembers that Costa got absolutely smacked in that fight, and some judge who must have been sleeping gave Costa three rounds. But Sean Strickland 100% won that fight, no doubt in my mind. Dricus Du Plessis, on the other hand, fought a little bit later in the year, UFC 305, in Australia like this fight. And guess what? He ultimately got the submission win over Israel Adesanya. Now, Strickland and Du Plessis have common opponents that they've beaten. Like Israel Adesanya is the biggest common opponent that they have both faced. And as we all know, Dricus has the head-to-head against Strickland. But this fight is very interesting because I really look at how good Sean Strickland is on the feet. A lot of people overlook Sean Strickland's ability out there to go and throw incredible amounts of volume in the punching category. Sean Strickland isn't someone who gets these crazy knockdowns. Although he had a great knockdown against Adesanya, he throws so much volume out there, and he is so hard to hit because he sits in that very nice Philly shell that I do think that Dricus Du Plessis is going to have a very hard time going up against Strickland in this fight. Now, on the other hand, Dricus Du Plessis is going to have the advantage in going in and mixing up the exchanges, taking it standing, kind of taking a minute on striking with Strickland on the feet, but then going and taking Strickland down and putting it into his world. Dricus Du Plessis is one of the best middleweight MMA grapplers we have ever seen. He's got a really good wrestling and jiu-jitsu game and kind of just knows what to do every single standpoint. He was the first person to submit Israel Adesanya. He KO'd Robert Whittaker out there. He's just a very good, well-rounded fighter. And now, ever since he had his nose fixed, Du Plessis had a deviated septum, which really impacted his way to be able to breathe and really be able to regenerate his stamina. Of course, as soon as he had his deviated septum fixed, I think that was right before the Robert Whittaker fight. He has shown in his last 3 fights that he can go all 5-5s and has some of the best cardio in the game. But Dricus and Sean Strickland are some of the UFC's biggest stars, and don't forget, in their last fight, Dricus talked about Sean Strickland's father. They went in there and had an absolute war, and really, I think that there is going to be a little bit of bad blood between these two guys. I think Sean Strickland feels wrongly like his belt was taken away from him when Dricus Du Plessis won that title, and I do think that really you have to go out there and pry the belt away for the champion to ultimately be the champion. And I really don't know if Dricus went out there and took the belt from Strickland in this devastating, dominant fashion, where Strickland, in my opinion, if I correctly remember watching the fight, I originally gave it to Strickland, but I also could see how Dricus won the bout. But these two fighters are some of the most fun fighters on the roster right now. Dricus, like I've said, has multiple different facets to his game, does so many different things to really go out there and show the diversity of MMA. But Sean Strickland, on the other hand, is a great wrestler himself. Now, seeing how close the last fight is, I do think that this is going to be another close bout. I just found some odds that came from Bet Online AG, and it has Dricus Du Plessis as a -145 favorite, where Sean Strickland is a +125. And I think that is truly correct odds for this fight. The first one was super close. Dricus ended up getting the split decision victory. Some thought Strickland won, some thought Dricus won, but I do think that this fight being so close between one another is 100% valid for this upcoming fight at UFC 312. I think that a lot of the UFC fans are going to be invested in this fight. Strickland is a very polarizing character. Dricus Du Plessis has the South African community behind him. I think everyone loves watching these two fighters fight, and I know a lot of people outside of the UFC community who knew who either Sean Strickland or Dricus Du Plessis is, so I think that this is going to be a massive card for the UFC in general. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please tell me what you think about this bout between Sean Strickland and Dricus Du Plessis. Like I said, these two individuals went at it at UFC 297 in Toronto, Canada, in a very close back and forth war that saw Dricus Du Plessis winning rounds 2, 3, and 4, and Strickland winning rounds 1 and 5 to ultimately give Dricus Du Plessis the split decision victory in Toronto, Canada. I do think that this is going to be another close fight. I do think that both Strickland and Du Plessis know they can win this one, and I 100% agree with that. I see these guys, they're both super resilient. They're two of the best UFC middleweights right now, and they both have such complete games with such different styles that it only makes for an amazing fight coming in front of us. I really cannot wait to see Dricus Du Plessis versus Sean Strickland 2, a rematch out of one of the best fights of 2024 in 2025, almost a year and 1 month later, just to see everyone go down and fully rewrite who won that first fight. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the UFC content. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified about UFC content releasing every single day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.